Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to the GPA podcast. And today I have a client with me, Lockie Wood. Lockie, thanks for joining me, mate.
Thanks, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Of course, mate. And it's a good time to talk to you after a good week away, hey?
Yeah, I've just come back from the King Island Pro Am, which was good. I came fifth last year and managed to come second this year. So always on the improve, which is good.
And who knows about next year, hey? Maybe
That's
one
it.
better.
One more place to jump.
That's it. And Lockie, we tried to record this a little while ago, and the audio didn't quite work in our favor. So again, I really appreciate you jumping on again, mate. But looking forward to share your story, share our time working together as well. It's almost approaching 2 years working together, which is crazy how quick that's gone. But yeah, looking forward into getting into what you do on a weekly level to prepare for your tour events.
Yeah, definitely. I do remember our first appointment. It was actually on a public holiday. I was looking back at the messages, which was good. So it was just before I travelled to the UK for my first G4D Open. And yeah, it's been a good journey since then. I've come a long way, which is great. So it shows the help, the right people in the right corners, and you never know where you can get to.
I appreciate that, mate. And I remember it was in my dingy shed, so I think I've come a long way since that as well. So
Definitely,
um,
definitely.
on the improve together. So do you mind giving people a background, mate, about where you're at? I guess where you started your golfing journey as well for people that don't know you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm 33 years old now. I started golf when I was about 12 or 13, about year seven. One of my best mates at school was mad keen golfer and a tour player these days. And he sort of convinced me to give it a try and caught the bug quite quickly. And yeah, come a couple of years later, I was quite a good amateur at the age of 15, off a very low handicap, and got involved in a pretty bad car accident at the age of 16, which put me on the sidelines for a couple of years with recovery, complicated injuries that are permanent. And yeah, came back to golf after that, but never could get back to where I was at. And it took a sort of bit of toll on my mental health. And at the age of about, I think I got by the time I was about 20, I sort of gave the game up completely and moved up to Queensland in 2018, picked up the sticks again, hadn't touched them in about 6 or 7 years. And yeah, started a traineeship in 2020, and here we are now. So now I compete in the all abilities events as well as PGA professional events. Um, I've won pro-ams, I've won G4D tour events. The last 4 years, or the last 2 years, I should say, have been quite large, and hopefully on a continuing trend.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I was listening to some of your interviews as well. You're giving to the DP tour as well. And I didn't realize you're going to the course on crutches and chipping and parting and getting around. Like you've really scrapped and clawed to get back, hey.
Yeah, it was a prolonged injury. Had some really serious complications with the recovery, and golf was so big in my life back then, and it is now. But as soon as I could get back, it was so important for my mental health to get back on the course, get back around the people that I enjoyed being around. That as soon as I could put my foot down, I was out on the golf course chipping around and playing. And I didn't even know all abilities golf or inclusive golf was a thing back then. I don't think even it was back then. But I was playing on crutches, playing on a scooter, competing in the comp, off one foot with a giant X fix on my other leg and a big frame. I made the local newspapers. I remember I shot one under in a competition, hitting it about 150 meters off the back foot, just chipping a putt and really good. And yeah, it was really, really good to get back into it as soon as I could. But then obviously came the plateau of, getting back to an elite level was quite hard.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And again, a lot of people making excuses, and I guess you've done everything to get back onto the course and really fight for it. So, yeah, your work ethic for me, it's ridiculous, which is so cool to work with someone with that. And before we met, do you mind discussing where you're at with your golfing journey and with your health at that point?
Yeah, so just before, like obviously I picked up the sticks again in 2018, had about 6 or 7 years off, had gone out to quite a large handicap. It took about 2 years to bring that back in. Started traineeship, got the opportunity to work at Harvey Bay Golf Club, which was a great opportunity in 2020. And then in 2021, I think it was, I started my traineeship 2020 or 2021, can't remember now. But yeah, started my traineeship there, and I've always been into the gym and into my fitness and looking after my health. I know that's important, and I spent when I didn't play golf, I did a lot of gym work, just with like able-bodied friends, your stock standard stuff, that we all train the same. But my body was so different that I created more complications than benefits, I suppose, with imbalances with the way that I have a foot that doesn't work, a leg that's shorter, missing muscles in my back, a wrist that doesn't move full range. There's a lot of things that are different with my body, so there's no normal training program I can stick to. Um, but yeah, I was probably a second year trainee when I met you. I just entered the world of all abilities golf and just got registered in the G4D stuff, which is called All Abilities in Australia. The pinnacle tour for that's the G4D tour. And I'd competed in 2 or 3 events in Australia and won all 3, and received an invite to the first major of all abilities, which is the G4D Open over in England. And I thought, this is getting pretty serious. I probably should look at, more ways to improve and what I can do to look after my body and improve my game on the physical side of it. So that's where I sort of looked around in my research at, who's the best in the business for, golf training and, understanding the body and the movements and the requirements of it, because you can't just go to the gym and train like every other person with disabilities. So that's where I've come across your page and reached out to yourself and yeah, teed up a meeting. And I think at the time I was ranked about 50th or 60th in the world. And in that time, the last 2 years, I've worked my way down to number 4 in the world.
Yeah, that's incredible, and I won't take any of the credit, mate, 'cause I know how hard you work on it. But that's what I really like about your attitude as well. Like it seems like you know what you want, and you aren't afraid to take that leap as well. What do you think makes you different there? Because a lot of golfers, they know they need to make a certain decision where it's maybe take a lesson or start their fitness. What makes you do that versus others don't, you think?
It's a tricky one. I've always had like an addictive personality, so whatever I've done it full bore sort of thing, like all flat out. I've overdone everything. So whether it's drinking at the pub or going to the gym, if I'm committed to doing it, I'm going to go as hard as I can. Even if my body says no, my brain keeps saying yes. Sometimes that can be, not a benefit. Sometimes it can go the other way. But I think in the terms of golf, I'm looking for, every percentage that I can improve on. Um, and it's just a getting started and being organized. And there's a lot of people out there that want to do things that don't start or don't stick to routines and things like that. But a little bit of advice that a tour player gave me once, and he was a very laid back player, who you wouldn't think would stick to a schedule. And I spoke to him about training and mobility and stuff like that. And he sort of said, it's just simple. Like, even the days that your body hurts, you don't feel like stretching, you've just got to do it. You've just got to do that mobility work. Otherwise, when you travel and play, your body quite quickly turns to shit, quite gets painful, it gets hard. And it's just so important in the game of golf.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I guess the analogy I give is warming up's like doing your 3 foot putts. Like no one likes doing them, but
Yeah.
you see Tiger banging 23 footers with the 2 tees every round. So it's dotting the I's, brushing your teeth, that sort of stuff. So do you mind giving the listeners some insight what like a training routine will look like for you on a given week?
Yeah, so I'll have 3 sort of heavier sessions in a week, upper body, lower body, plyometrics and core. And I'll then also have, a mobility session each day, or ideally each day, to do either first thing in the morning or in the evenings. If I'm organized, I might get 2 done in a day. Um, so really I'll spend 3 good sessions at the gym, ideally 4 or 5 if I'm home all week. But often I'm traveling, every second or third week, at least once a month. I'm sort of traveling overseas.
Yeah, yeah, and we're constantly keeping on top of your schedule, trying to work it all out, and even we're trying to plan for this year as well. Because it seems like your structure jumps around as well with a lot of these new events being added. And I remember
Yeah,
again, our first year together, you were away for, it seemed like 3 months of the year almost, or there was so many
yeah,
flights you had.
yeah.
Um,
It's a very unique position, I suppose. Like I play across three tours. So I play the G4D tour, which is an international tour, which I'm away sort of, 5 to 10 times a year overseas for just one event at a time coming home. And then I play on the PGA Pro Am series and trying to crack onto I've played on the Australian Australasian tour as well. So I'm sort of trying to blend three schedules, as well as tour schools into my calendar and my schedule. So it's quite tricky in that sense that we're always juggling. I never know more than 2 or 3 weeks ahead where I'm at. You win one event, you get into the next. You play bad, you lose status. Especially at the start, the G4D tour is very hard to get onto. It's only the top 10 in the world. And I was sort of floating in and out of that at the start, until I won that Australian Open or the Australian Inclusive Championship. Um, it wasn't quite guaranteed the next event, until I sort of cemented myself in the world rankings.
yeah, and it's so good that you've got that, and again, just testament to the hard work that you've done. And what goals you're looking at going forward, mate? Have you got anything on the wall, or is it more just the process that you're sticking to?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of rewriting goals for 2025. So I set out goals for 2024. Obviously, I think it was about 6 or 7. I probably got 5 of them achieved. And, but they're obviously, winning on the G4D tours, one of them, getting through Q school, winning events, is definitely up there on the list. There's a few personal goals outside of golf as well. But yeah, sticking to a good routine, I find for me, with my health and the way my body works and the way my life works, I'm a very structured person. I really like being organized and knowing what's ahead, even though I don't know in the golf side of it. But the best routine, is just staying on top of the week ahead. As much as I know I can stay on top of, I will.
Yeah, and I guess amongst all that like chaos, you probably want something that you can rely on, whether that's like your training routine or the practice routines that you've got, just to try and keep some stability there, which I imagine everyone would feel pretty similar. And do you mind just touching on with obviously the physical side of things? You're a qualified golf coach. Can you
Yep.
discuss how that blends in with golf performance, both the physical and technical side?
Yeah, so me being a golf coach, it's very hard to be a coach and a player. Like I find that a very difficult balance, because you need to be there for your clients, around the clock, and I'm away a lot. But it is, yeah, tricky in the sense, it's very hard to explain, I suppose. Is there any way you want me to lead down that?
Yeah,
Um,
just in terms of even in your own experience, Lockie. So when you felt like your body might be working against you in your swing, how you were navigating that, or what you'd find would happen technically if you're moving really well versus really poorly.
yeah, yeah. So my body's very unique. So I've learnt, it's taken a few years, but I've learnt to sort of own my own swing in a way that it's not textbook. I wouldn't teach my swing to anyone. My swing's my swing because of the way my body works, and that's very important for other people to know as well. And that's becoming more and more common out there that everyone is, nobody's the same as someone else. You can't teach someone Rory's swing or John Rahm's swing. Your swing is your swing, whether you're able-bodied, all abilities, 6 foot tall, 5 foot tall. It's very unique to you. So the sooner you learn that and own that, the better off you're going to be. You definitely need a coach in your corner to help you see from that, different perspective, or a couple coaches. There's no harm in getting extra help out there. Um, and yeah, understanding that and knowing what works for you and what doesn't. So traveling for me at the start was a massive shock to the system. My first event, I just played 2 rounds in Australia, jumped on a plane that night to the UK, and went to go out the golf course the next day. I got to the UK, 24-hour flight or whatever it is. I couldn't even get up the stairs. So I slept downstairs. We had a 2-story apartment. I slept downstairs on the couch. I was that sore from playing. So learning little lessons, and you slowly pick these up along the way. I didn't have any mentors who could really, who have been in my shoes before, to know that travel is going to be so, taxing on the body, to tell me this or give me the heads up. So I learned the hard way physically traveling. And I've now got my little things that I do to travel and make sure that I stay successful and keeping my body in the best shape while I do travel. And that's where I can give insight as a coach to how to travel and play. And that's a huge thing to understand because you can be an elite golfer and have only played in Australia or in your state. And then all of a sudden, if opportunity arises overseas, it's a whole new world out there and how to get there and be comfortable in a different environment and bring your home body, so to speak, or your week in, week out, or your home club body to a golf club on the other side of the world is a whole different ballpark game. And that's where you once you realize how hard that is, that's when you start to really appreciate the tour players that do it week in, week out.
It was funny. I was talking to someone just the other day about this, about the levels of golf, right? Like most of us play the weekly comp, Stableford. Then you go to play the monthly medal stroke. There's another layer of pressure. Or then you might start to compete in these local or regional events. Then you go and travel. And then it's in a different time. Like there's so many levels to it. And that's where I guess like you're speaking to that. There's so many things you need to learn along the way. A lot of that is from experience, like trial and error, see what works for you.
Yep.
Um, and then obviously you've got your strategies that you've implemented. But no, that's really valuable information to people to know about. And like I always ask this question, but a lot of people reach out to me and they are about to jump into a program. Maybe they shy away, or maybe they do come on board. But what would you say to someone if they're going to work with someone on their fitness and their golf, if they're sitting on the fence at the moment?
It's so important and it's so underrated to your general golfer. And I coach so many golfers with poor mobility that don't do anything for it. They might spend hours and hours at the range and have, good work ethic for practice. But the way I sort of try and explain it, I sort of explain to them and said, look, I'm a professional golfer. I've competed in many tournaments. If I had 20 minutes, like say my bus or my car or whatever was late, if I had 20 minutes at the golf course, I wouldn't hit a single ball. I'd hit 15 minutes would be doing my stretching and mobility work. If I had an extra minute, I'd go out into the putting green. And then maybe if I had a chance, I might strike a couple balls. I would rather spend 10, 15 minutes stretching as opposed to 10, 15 minutes of hitting balls in pain with poor mobility, ruining my swing, and then roll a couple putts, as opposed to stretching and going to the tee with a body that's going to move and unlock and, get in the right positions. It's like that with your golf fitness. So if you think that you can, be really good without doing any training or without, pushing your body a little bit, it's the body, I suppose everyone's learning it more and more. It's becoming more and more important in the golf swing. And these days as well, golfers are genuine athletes. Like, it's not like 20 or 30 years ago. Like everyone's hitting it longer. Everyone's fitter, everyone's taller, everyone's stronger. The length and the side of the game is huge. I'm not a long hitter. I am working on trying to change that part of it. But it is so important out there, and you can just see the people that are going to fall behind and the people that are going to succeed.
Yeah, 100% agree, mate. And if people want to find out more about like you, follow your journey, Lockie, or potentially contact you for coaching at some point, where can they find you, mate?
Yeah, so I work in Harvey Bay. I do online and face-to-face lessons. My business is called Fraser Coast Performance Golf. So you can just chuck that into Google or www.frasercoastperformancegolf.com.au, or just Google search my name and it should come up with one of my social media pages.
Perfect, mate. All right. Well, I really appreciate your time, mate. Again, your dedication inspires me, mate. So, Lockie, always a pleasure.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Billy.